What else is new? I'm ready. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Thursday, February 10th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are brought to you by No House Advantage. We got a big one on our hands today. 7-game slate, but that's not the only big piece for today. NBA trade deadline coming up at 3 p.m., which means a lot of what Adam and I talk about today will be completely meaningless for everyone. So make sure you're sticking around for the next hour for all of the goods that we're about to give you. Before we do anything, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how did it shake out for you yesterday?
Went pretty well. Did well on the night slate. Didn't quite pull it out. Was winning for a while, but didn't quite get there. But did okay. I mean, I lost in the main tournament on the main slate, but had a couple of tickets into the 8-8-8. Got 12th in that. So
Nice.
Had a good day overall, plus like 15K or something.
That'll work. Can't be mad at that.
No.
We're going to have a hell of a day today in terms of value and pay-ups and whatever we're going to talk about today. A lot of it is just going to change dramatically. We're likely to have deals and guys moving around and additional minutes being provided that we just can't know right now. The deeper dive and live before lock will be incredibly important on a day like today to take you guys through all of the news that happened and to help get you set up for that 7 o'clock lock. I hope you guys will join me at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time today, going live for the NBA trade deadline. Going to go for about 2 hours, something in that 1:30 to 3:30 range. If we start getting deals around like 12:30, I'll probably just hop on live even earlier than we were expecting. So I hope you're tuning in for that one. It's going to be fun. We've done it for the past couple of years. Love to talk about it. So please join me at 1:30. Adam, are you ready to break down this 7-gamer?
Yeah, getting a little distracted by crazy takes in chat, but I'll wait a little bit to completely derail that.
Well, we haven't started yet, so hit me with it.
I mean, LeBron losing to the Blazers last night doesn't mean he's worse than Jordan, because he's obviously better than Jordan.
Invalidate. Yeah, we have to just invalidate LeBron because he lost to the Blazers on a Wednesday. Oh, man. Everyone hates Chris. Kobe is not top 5. That's a terrible take. Tommy, what's going on? Good to see you here. This should be fun, man. This should be fun. LaFraud is the G League player. Blech. Some people are crazy. But whoever this Josh is that obviously makes it look like it's my burner account, agreed that Kobe isn't top 5. I
can't tell if he's making fun of you or Chris. I think he needs to clarify that.
Oh yeah, maybe you're not on my side on that one.
Because I read it I see how you took it, but I read it the opposite way originally.
I don't know if he heard me. Oh, okay, now he's with me. I was gonna say I don't know if he heard me say that by the time that response was there. So I don't know. It is Christmas morning for me today. Alan Minton giving you a little bit of a shout out on the Whiteside call. That did work out pretty well for you, huh? Could have worked out better, obviously, but
yeah, it could have worked out better. But yeah, it worked out well.
All righty, here we go. Let's do this one. Memphis Grizzlies, 10-point favorites in Detroit, 225 total. Basically, everybody that's been around for Memphis is available here. We still don't have Dylan Brooks back, but the rest of the rotation has been pretty firmed up now. It's possible Memphis makes a deal. I mean, they are ripe to try to make some sort of consolidation and pick up a body. For a while, I thought that body could have been Bradley Beal. It's certainly not going to be him any longer, or at least I'd be very surprised if it is. So how do you feel about Memphis? I think Desmond Bane for 6K on FanDuel stands out as the best option here. He's 22% owned. Morant and Jackson are about 10% owned. I don't see any far and away obvious I need to have a lot of these guys plays, but I like Morant, I like Bane, I like Jackson. Little bits of some of these other guys is okay. No real true priorities.
Yeah, I mean, I think Morant's the priority for me. Like, I'm just still getting to him pretty easily at 10-3. 34% usage rate, give or take, without Dylan Brooks. 34% assist percentage. You should get 34, 35 minutes, somewhere in there. in a good matchup against Detroit. So I still really like Morant. I think that Jackson and Bane both look like pretty good tournament options where they're not likely to pull a ton of ownership. They're correctly priced, but they still have plenty of upside. So I like those two in tournaments. But Morant's the one that I'm for sure that I really like here.
Yeah, it's just they're all at this point they're all just sort of priced where they should be. They get the benefit of a solid matchup against Detroit, but just in general, looks like a team that I want to have a little bit of.
Yeah, I mean, you can take shots on Adams and Clark and stuff too, but I would say that they're like a step below the Jackson Bane tier.
All righty. Well, the next one is the tricky one because Jeremy Grant is 5,200 on FanDuel and projected for 38% ownership. He's 6,100 on DraftKings, projected for 12% ownership, and that is the most on DK for the Pistons. Obviously, the most on FanDuel for the Pistons. But I think the most likely scenario here is that Jeremy Grant isn't a Piston at 301 today. So is there anything we can do right now? I assume you also like Jeremy Grant today if he is still a Piston.
Yeah. So you said 12% on DraftKings. I think that's reasonable. 6,100. The issue is that he's playing like 30 to 32 minutes. We're not getting, or we haven't at least been getting a lot more from him. He actually, and it's kind of weird too, his numbers haven't been any better without Cade Cunningham this year. So we have Cunningham questionable. It kind of has seemed recently like people are assuming that Jeremy Grant becomes like a better DFS play when Cade Cunningham's not out there, but that hasn't been backed up by anything this year. It's not even like it's a case where his usage rate goes up, but his efficiency goes down. The usage hasn't even really changed. The production hasn't really changed. So I do think that there's a tendency for Grant's ownership to kind of go up a little bit if Cunningham's out when it really shouldn't. But 30 to 32 minutes of him at 6,100 on DraftKings is fine at whatever really low salary you said on FanDuel, obviously.
5,200.
Yeah, just crazy.
Yeah. And yet, I think the more likely scenario is that we don't roster him at all because he is not active. What happens here if we don't have Jeremy Grant and potentially Cade Cunningham, who's been out for the past 4 games?
Yeah, be interested to see who moves into the starting lineup. We've seen Kelly Olynyk playing behind Grant recently, but I mean, it could also be Trey Lyles. So it would, like, if they're both out, especially, it could open up a lot. We've seen Diallo starting in place of Cunningham. If Grant is out too, then I would expect Diallo's usage rate to go up a bit. He's 4,800 on DraftKings with guard forward eligibility. Would make him look pretty good. If Cunningham is in and Grant is gone, and you get like if Olynyk starts at 3,700, just play like as much Olynyk as you can. If Lyles starts at 4,100, he's a good play as well.
Yeah. So the Pistons right now, like, I like the idea of getting to a little bit of Sadiq Bey. No ownership today in the mid 6s. If Cade plays, he's 6,900 on FanDuel. I think that's appealing. But if we lose Jeremy Grant here and potentially get another day without Cade Cunningham, this goes from a spot where there's not really anything happening for the Pistons to there's likely a ton of value around. And this is like one of the bigger swing spots that we could have, because this is a great spot, in a way, a great spot for Detroit. Memphis, 3rd in pace right now. This is a massive pace up spot for the Pistons. If we free up another 30 something minutes of Jeremy Grant, if he gets shipped out, maybe it's not just Grant, maybe it's Grant and Frank Jackson. We have even more minutes to go around. The Detroit Pistons will be very important to pay attention to when Adam comes back for the deeper dive, and then when we have live before lock. For right now, it's not really worth us talking about it. Jeremy Grant might be the number one name that is on the trade block that we don't know what's going to happen for today. So keep your eyes peeled for this one.
Yeah. And I'm with you on Bey. He's someone that can also pick up additional usage. One thing we have seen recently from the Pistons that I think is at least worth noting, it's still not going to be a priority in DFS, but Isaiah Stewart is consistently getting you like 30 minutes or so. You're not seeing his minutes really jerked around anymore like you were earlier in the year. So I think you can feel at least a little bit more confident in his playing time. Still doesn't make him stand out at the salary, but makes him look better than he would have like a month ago.
5,400 on DraftKings as a center, 5,800 on FanDuel as a power forward only. Make of that what you will, but yeah, evidently their starting center does not have that distinction. For the amount of guys that they give power forward center, to not give the actual center is just something special here for FanDuel, as per usual. Alrighty. Anything else for this game, Memphis or Detroit?
Nope.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the schedule for the rest of the day. We've got the NFL strategy show coming up after this at 11 a.m. We have the Fan Up NFL show at noon. MMA strategy will be at 1 o'clock. I will then be live at 1:30 for the NBA trade deadline special. MMA strategy show will continue to go all the way to 2 o'clock, though. 2 p.m., we've got the NHL strategy show. Let me take a little bit of a break until Adam comes back for the deeper dive at 5. We've got the NBA Live Before Lock show at 6, and then a Super Bowl rankings show at 8 after Live Before Lock. It's going to be Laffy, Ben, and Eric just chopping it up on like their favorite Super Bowl appetizers, favorite bets for the Super Bowl, all sorts of weird stuff. They're just going to be chatting it up later tonight. So go hang out with those guys. NBA player projections and NHL ownership projections are free for today. We're moving on to game number 2. The Miami Heat, 4.5-point favorites in New Orleans. If you were planning on playing Kaziak Pala today, I'm sorry. He is now on the Oklahoma City Thunder and wasn't going to play for Miami anyway. It looks like for Miami, we have just normal, everybody is in that's normally in. No Oladipo, no Markieff Morris, but we've got Caleb Martin back. We've got Tyler Hero back. Kyle Lowry, 22% owned on FanDuel at 5,400. Seems to make a ton of sense to me. Jimmy Butler is the only other guy in double digits in ownership. That is also on FanDuel at 9,200. I don't mind getting to him at 93 on DK. Not a lot of priorities, though, here for the Miami Heat.
No, just a bunch of guys that I think are correctly priced at best. I mean, I think you could argue that as good as Bam is, 9K is probably a little bit too expensive, especially when you factor in, how many other options you're going to have at center. From a ceiling standpoint, obviously Butler, Bam can go nuts. Hero at 6,200 can certainly give you a good game in this spot, but there's nothing here that stands out to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously, I think we're on the same page. The FanDuel price of Lowry at 5,400 is the thing that you should be attacking.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Yeah, it's the Jeremy Grant price tier.
Yeah,
for Kyle Lowry. So I don't really have anything else to talk about here. One question for you, and this isn't really an important one. They've basically been running a 9-man rotation. Now, it just so happens that someone has had to be out for all of those over the past few games. Do you have a lean as to whether they go to Strus or Martin as sort of the 9th guy, or do they go to 10 and Strus and Martin play like 10 minutes apiece?
Yeah, I'm not really sure there. I would lean Strus. He's kind of, I think, been ahead of Martin recently. But it's hard because we've just had somebody out for Miami basically like every game for what feels like a month or two now. So I don't really know. I think they probably just play the extra guy.
Yeah.
I kind of have a hard time thinking that either of Martin or Strus DNP.
Okay.
I think it does make Duncan Robinson's minutes a little bit more volatile. If Robinson's playing well, he can certainly still get, his 26 to 28 minutes. But we've seen plenty of games where Duncan Robinson is just nowhere to be found in the fourth quarter when this team's at full strength.
Yeah. Ultimately, I don't think that it matters whether you're giving Strus the minutes or Martin the minutes. You're probably not playing that guy anyway. Right. But if you happen to think that Strus can get those minutes, he is 3,800 with shooting guard small forward. I did want to just point it out, but I think that's a very, very, very deep cut. Then we go to the Pelicans side, and we've got CJ McCollum on this team now. I have no idea what to do with the usage for these guys, but we should have CJ active. No Zion, no Larry Nance. He's just already getting knee surgery, which is wild. No Willie Hernan-Gomez still out for COVID. So it appears that we'll have CJ McCollum and Tony Snell available for this one. Let's start with McCollum, 7,500 on FanDuel, 8,200 on DraftKings. I don't think that he has the same sort of minute ceiling he used to have for Portland. Don't get the sense that he's just going to get jammed out there for like 37 a day. But
why?
It just feels like
that's what Josh Hart
different
doing.
Life, I guess. But I feel like Josh Hart's a different person for that.
And Brandon Ingram.
He's not carrying, like Josh Hart's not carrying an offensive load.
Yeah, but Ingram's playing 37, 38.
Maybe.
Like my only point, I agree that I'm not going to just like project McCollum for 38 right out of the gate. But my only point here is that the Pelicans they're at least a team that has shown they're willing to play their best guys 37, 38 minutes.
That's fair. That's a good point. Probably too quick to dismiss it. Do you like McCollum here?
And they were doing it with Joval earlier in the year too.
Yeah, whose minutes are not even remotely close to high now, which is another thing.
But we had a nice long stretch of 36 minutes a night from Joval.
We really did.
But yeah, I mean, I think mostly, and this is where like the trade. I personally hate the trade deadline because from a DFS standpoint, because you have to deal with this and like it feels like the first week of the NBA again, where you're just kind of like guessing at stuff. Overall, I think that the Pels just look less appealing, at least right now, until we see how things sort itself out. Brandon Ingram is certainly not priced to be playing alongside CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum is not priced to be playing alongside Joval and Brandon Ingram. On top of that, you have a tough matchup against Miami. Devontae Graham is almost certainly going to be hurt by CJ McCollum. Herbert Jones, not a high usage guy anyway, but that's not going to do him any favors. Jackson Hayes' minutes, I think, they'll be interesting. The only game recently we saw with Josh Hart you still got a bunch of minutes from Hayes, but Joval also fouled out in, I believe, 27 or 28 minutes. So you got a few extra minutes from Hayes just for that. I think it's likely you get, 26 minutes or so from Hayes, but I don't think that's enough for me to really want to get to him.
Yeah, I gave him 28 minutes, 6,200 on FanDuel, 5,600 on DraftKings. Probably not going to get to too much. He's 6% owned. That feels about right. Yeah, I don't really know what to do with rates here. You can make a case like if you were looking at it on the surface, you're like, okay, maybe CJ is like a decent comp for Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but Walker's out there with all of these guys so little that I don't really know what to do with it. Are you assuming it's Graham, McCollum, Jones, Ingram, Joval today?
Yeah.
Okay, you and me both. Joval's still 7K on FanDuel, projected for 20% ownership. What do you think's up with his minutes as of late?
I think they just kind of have been more willing to play their backups, whether it was Hernan Gomez when he was healthy or Hayes now. I mean, he fouled out 2 games ago. Last game, did he foul out last game too?
I don't know, 24 minutes.
1, 2. Actually, I could see. Yeah, he fouled out last game too. So he's fouled out each of the last 2 games.
Okay. Yeah, it's 32 minutes on the 4th, 32 minutes on the 31st, but that's not the 35, 36 that we had been seeing earlier in the season. So I got him in for 31 right now. It might be a little bit pessimistic, but he's still my number 1 guy coming out of the game. Although
I think 31, 32 is where he should be at.
Okay. I just don't see any sort of like main priorities here.
No, me neither. Combination of tough matchup and you're adding someone that in the column that is going to take production away from pretty much everybody and who himself isn't very inexpensive.
Anything else for the Pels?
Nope.
And obviously keep your eye on them. No reason they couldn't make another move today. And then we go to Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets are 2.5-point underdogs in Washington. They have lost, I believe, 7 straight. Maybe it's 8. They've been getting paddled pretty much every single night. No James Harden for injury reasons, trade reasons. Who knows? Luckily, this is a road game, so Kyrie Irving is available to play. Nick Claxton's questionable. Still no Durant, Harris, Aldridge, or Paul Millsap. I would imagine you will see Paul Millsap get either traded today or bought out shortly thereafter. Well, Kyrie Irving's 9,400 on FanDuel, 28% owned. You should be playing him pretty aggressively today, in my opinion. I still think he looks okay at 10-4 on DK. Mills is 17% owned on DraftKings, where he still has his point guard small forward eligibility. Evidently, someone's still asleep at the wheel for that one. Let's talk about Irving and Mills. How are you feeling about Kyrie today?
I think he looks good. The FanDuel price is clearly more appealing, but even at 10-4 on DraftKings, I think he looks reasonable. He's not getting a crazy amount of ownership, which is nice at 10%. I think he's very comparable to John Morant. I think that you're probably going to get a couple more minutes from Irving. I think Morant on average is the better point per minute guy. So I would pay attention to the ownership there. That's a spot where I think ownership should be similar, but I think Irving looks good. And then Mills, as far as I know, coming off of an absolutely horrible game last time out, but 5K with guard and forward eligibility should give you 32 minutes or so. Just looks like a pretty good value.
Man, this team. Can we get to the rest of this Brooklyn team? Are you taking shots on Cam Thomas, Bembry, Johnson, Brown, Carter, Edwards, Claxton, Griffin. Like, I don't even know who to actually name first.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough with the salaries sort of rising. Like Cam Thomas at 5K certainly has a ceiling. He's one of the only bench guys here that can actually score. But
Yeah.
The minutes are still volatile. His production is volatile. So there's a ceiling there. I think it's likely he plays like 26 to 28 minutes. Still pretty risky. If Claxton is out, I don't mind going back to Blake Griffin. He only played 16 minutes last game. Daron Sharp played 24. I think typically you're going to be getting like 26 to 28 from Griffin if Claxton is out. So I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, it's mostly Kyrie and Mills for me. And for what it's worth, 3 games this year where Harden and Durant have been out and Kyrie has played. Mills at 0.97 DraftKings points per minute, 21.5% usage rate. Kyrie's at 1.31 DraftKings points per minute.
Yeah, I've got Kyrie projecting pretty nicely here today. Cam Thomas, by the way, 6K on FanDuel. That one's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, so he's more expensive than Kyle Lowry. That makes sense.
That's a really good point that I didn't even really think of.
And Jeremy Grant.
Obviously, keep your eyes on Brooklyn. If James Harden is on his way out, it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody else is leaving this rotation too. We have no idea what's going to happen. The good news is it doesn't appear that Harden is playing this game one way or the other. So we shouldn't have any real weird net stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, if Mills is gone, then it's going to open up a lot. But
yeah, which I don't know. We'll see.
It would be kind of weird for them to trade him, though, I think.
I'd be very surprised if they did.
They were talking about Joe Harris yesterday.
That I get, but I don't know who wants to take. That's a really hard deal to trade right now if he needs to go back under the knife. We'll move it over to Washington. Bradley Beal going to be out for the rest of the year now with wrist surgery, which means there is a ton of ownership coming in here to Washington. And I want to start with my boy, Spencer Dinwiddie, 5,700 on FanDuel, 6K on DraftKings. I'm doing this again, but the ownership is there today.
Yeah, I mean, he's still cheap at 6K. The matchup is nice. You've had kind of some difficult matchups for him recently. Overall this year, his performance has just been all over the place, but obviously he gets more opportunities without Beal, and overall he has been good in the games he's played without him. 13 games now that Dinwiddie's played without Beal, 1.23 DraftKings points per minute, 32.5 minutes per game, almost a 26% usage rate, 38% assist percentage. As long as the salary doesn't go up, I'm perfectly fine just getting right back to Dinwiddie.
Kuzma, 26, KCP, 23, Bryant, 20, Avdia, 12, Harrell, 15, Holiday, 12, Hachimura, 10. Those are all the ownership projections for everyone on Washington. Are you just full on playing everybody that's out there for the Wizards outside of what looks like Corey Kispert and Howell Neto?
I mean, pretty much. I think those numbers are kind of high.
I don't get most of it. I don't get like
20%
on Bryant, 15% Harrell.
I get it on Kuzma. I get it on Dinwiddie. I get it on KCP in the sense that he has guard forward eligibility. He's 3,500. You can expect him to play like 28 minutes and just get you like fall into like 20, 22 points. Bryant, I mean, he did play 22 minutes last game, but it's just difficult to give him more than like 20 to 22 minutes. He is still center only. 3,300 is very cheap though. Harrell, if he gets 24 minutes, he's going to look good at 4,900. It's just a matter of, are the minutes going to be there? Obviously, I wouldn't play Harrell and Bryant together. Rui, 2 games in a row now. So it's tough. And someone had pointed this out in chat the other day, and I agree. But so we've seen Rui now get garbage time in back-to-back games, getting him up to like 22 or 23 minutes and then 26 minutes. Obviously, you're not looking at the garbage time games and saying like, oh, now we can just start projecting Rui for 26 minutes. But it does show that physically he can play that many minutes and that they're not opposed to playing him that many minutes. So there's at least some chance that in a competitive game now, you take minutes away from anybody, Aaron Holiday, Kispert, Neto, any of these guys, and Rui plays more minutes. So I think that makes him kind of interesting, but I'm still mostly I want to be aware of who I'm playing together. Like, I don't want Harrell and Bryant together. I'm not sure I even really want Rui with them, because one of the paths to Rui getting more minutes is that they go to a 3-man center rotation,
Yeah.
and he's getting some center minutes at the expense of probably Harrell. There's also a chance Harrell's not on the team by this game, but
also true.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's
Wizards are primed to make a move today.
Oh yeah. So basically, it's just I get the ownership on Washington in the sense that all of these guys are really cheap, and there's a path to enough minutes for them to be useful. Collectively, they're over-owned because, like, if Bryant pays off a $3,300 price tag to the extent that you're glad you have him at 20%, there's a pretty good chance Harrell is failing. If Bryant and Harrell both do well, there's a pretty good chance Rui failed. So I think this is a team where you really want to pay attention to who you're playing together.
This is a tricky spot. I don't like the ownership. It's almost as if the ownership is coming in as if all of these guys get the minutes that you need to succeed. When in all actuality, it's like 2 of these guys are going to get what we need for the ownership. I'm with you though. Kuzma, Dinwiddie, and KCP are to me the 3 obvious ones. Kuzma and Dinwiddie for the clear reasons, and then KCP for the position and the price tag. He's kind of a guy whose minutes aren't going anywhere as long as he's not going anywhere.
Right. I basically think, like, you can play Dinwiddie with whoever you want. You can play Kuzma with whoever you want. You can pretty much play KCP with whoever you want. I don't want Bryant with Harrell. I probably just would want like max 1 of Bryant, Harrell, Rui. I don't want Holiday and Avdia. I want max 1 of Kispert, Avdia, Holiday. Like, the closing lineup here, if this game's competitive, and it's hard to say because Washington just hasn't been playing competitive games, but you assume the closing lineup is going to be Dinwiddie, Kuzma, KCP, probably Harrell, and then 1 of Rui, Denny, Kispert, Holiday.
Yeah. Oh God, that's rough. I don't have anything else really to add here. We have Montrezl Harrell 30% owned on FanDuel. I think that makes a little bit more sense. 4,800, but he also has the power forward eligibility. That kind of changes everything there. Still can't believe Chandre had the nerve to be like, Harden hasn't played in a month. Something's up. He's played in 10 of the 15 games the Brooklyn Nets have played over the past 30 days. He played 8 days ago.
I mean, if you want to call that playing.
I mean, he played 74 minutes across both of those games.
Yeah, he kind of just stood out there and
did
nothing.
A lot of people do that. Anything else for your Wizards?
No, just very likely that this team looks different by the time deeper dive rolls around.
What do you want your Wizards to do today?
I don't know. I
you're not happy with this team right now, are you?
No, like they're boring to watch. They suck. I don't know. Like, I mean, I want them to blow it up. I don't even know what there is to blow up. Like, nobody wants Rui or Denny or Kispert because we make shitty draft picks every year. Nobody's gonna like give you anything substantial for Dinwiddie. I don't really care. I don't think that there's a whole lot they can do. I mean, like, there's moves they can make, but there's not like franchise changing moves they can make.
Yeah. Do you wish they would have traded Bradley Beal in the past?
I mean, now that I know he's probably leaving this offseason and we're getting nothing for him, yeah.
It's a weird thing.
And now that I know that he just plateaued and ended up not even, like, I mean, he's obviously good, but ended up not being what it looked like he was going to be.
I think it's tricky because when you have a guy like him that is saying, yo, I want to be here and I want to play for Washington, it becomes really difficult to trade him in the face of that because other people will then look at it and be like, yo, he wanted to stay and you guys iced him.
Yeah. So, and it's tough to sell to the fans too.
Right. So like, I think that they obviously should have traded him when like Drew was getting traded and it was, 6 picks and pick swaps and whatever, because it's just a package that you shouldn't pass up on, but you lose that goodwill that you're trying to build and it becomes complicated.
Yeah. And it's something Greg and I actually were talking about yesterday too. And I know he said before, and I agree with him. Like, it's tough because every team realistically probably shouldn't be like championship or bust. Like, it's a much better product for many years having Bradley Beal out there than, just trading Bradley Beal as soon as you realize that like he's probably not good enough to be the championship number one. You just kind of you end up going through like a decade of just like, oh, the Wizards suck every year, except that one year they were good and then they traded everybody again. So like from an entertainment standpoint, from like a product standpoint, I'm honestly fine with Beal, and I wouldn't be upset if he comes back. But like at the same time, it's really tough to win a championship if you're paying Beal what Beal is going to end up getting paid.
Yeah, he's about to get a hell of a bag. So good for him. He deserves it. Hit that like button, guys. We're at 100 right now. Could certainly use a couple more. Let's talk a little bit about the presenting sponsor of this show. That would be No House Advantage. If you guys sign up and use the promo code Awesemo, you can get up to $25 on that first deposit. They've got a $20K contest going for the Super Bowl this Sunday. But more importantly, this is a day that you should take advantage of because the trade deadline should create a ton of very, very obvious plays that you should be able to get to. We have optimal lineups and No House Advantage projections that completely give you everything that you could possibly need to set up your lineup. But if we start seeing people get traded, some of these lines are just going to be wide open for you. We've got another 7.5 points, 5.5 rebounds for Khem Birch line. So they appear to just not be treating Khem Birch like he only plays 6 minutes a game like he does right now. We're going to have a lot of choices today that could really help you out. Where we go? Evan Fournier, 14.5 points. That's kind of interesting. We could talk about that. Kemba Walker is at 11.5. It's possible we see him getting unloaded by the Knicks today. We shall see.
Where? The G League?
I mean, I would not be surprised if he were on the Lakers by the end of today.
So actually, one just side note, because I actually love Kemba and I feel bad that I just took a shot at him. But I haven't looked into this at all. But I did see a tweet the other day that essentially like that stretch where Kemba was playing really well, the Knicks were just running pick and roll constantly, which is obviously what Kemba should be doing. And then recently they just haven't been doing it at all. I don't know if that's the case. I didn't look into it. But if that is the case, God, Tibbs sucks.
Yeah, he does. He does. I mean, I also think that he might just be full on cooked, but
he was good literally a month ago.
Yeah. I think his legs are just shot, and there are times where he doesn't have it. 53% true shooting right now.
I think that's likely. My only point, like after seeing that tweet, was like if literally the difference in Kemba not being able to score for 3 games in a row and Kemba just being lights out fantastic is that the Knicks aren't running pick and roll. That's amazing.
Let's take a peek here. Kemba Walker this season per game, averaging 0.95 points per possession as the pick and roll ball handler. That is an 80th percentile outcome. That's still pretty damn good. Can't be mad there.
Nope.
Go check out No House Advantage, everybody. Josh wants to know how big the Kemba contract is. I believe he makes 8 this year and 9 next year. Well, this is one of the games that should be easy to talk about, but could also be wild if either one of these teams do anything big. Toronto taking on the Houston Rockets. Raptors are 7-point favorites. Basically, we know what we're doing with Toronto. It's the same thing we do every day. Some in the neighborhood of 15% ownership for Siakam, VanVleet, Anunoby, Barnes, and Trent. Wiggle room on both sites, depending on if you're slightly better or slightly worse there. Is there anything new to talk about for Toronto, or are we just playing the starting 5 as usual?
Yeah, same. It's a really good matchup against Houston. Get the Siakam, get the VanVleet. Both of their salaries increased a little bit, but you're still talking about probably 38 to 40 minutes for those guys. Barnes, Anunoby, Trent all look fine as well. The same thing as always with the Raptors.
Yeah. No real interest in Boucher for me today, or Achua, or anything else. I just want to play the 5 starters and rotate through them.
Yeah. Boucher is kind of just stuck in this 18 to 20 minute role. If for any reason he gets to 24, he's probably going to look good, but the salary is still just a little bit more expensive. Like if I would prefer making that play on somebody like $3,700 Olynyk Like if Grant's in, obviously if Grant's out, Olynyk's going to be popular. But like if let's say the Pistons don't make any trades, I would rather be doing the like gamble and hope he plays 6 minutes more than I'm expecting thing on 3,700 Olynyk than $4,800 Boucher.
Yeah, I like that call. Keep your eyes peeled on Toronto. I would assume they're either offloading Goran Dragic in a trade to try to bring somebody in, or at the very least, he's going to get bought out. But if he does get traded, no telling what's going on for Toronto, other than it probably doesn't matter for today's game. Let's move it on to Houston.
Dang's still getting paid by the Lakers, right?
Now that stretch should be over by now.
The only reason I thought so was I thought I saw a tweet yesterday, but it could have been a joke.
This could be the last year of the stretch. Hard for me to remember. Doesn't look like it. Now I just want to know. Active contracts, multi-year summary. He is. This is the final year. He's on the books for $5 million right now. And that's more of a cap hit. I don't know how the actual like payout structure is for something like that, but yes, he is technically on the books for the Lakers for $5 million this year, which is the exact same amount. Here's what's interesting. 2 guys are on the cap for the Lakers this year at $5 million on the dot. Neither one of them has played. It's Kendrick Nunn for $5 million on the dot and Luol Deng for $5 million in dead cap charges. Oh boy.
The same person arguing that Luol Deng is not good is arguing that Cam Reddish is.
That's a hell of a take.
Reddish is barely. I like this one. Reddish is barely 20. I mean, I'm barely 30 then, I guess.
Yeah, that's to say that Luol Deng is not good is a real tough take. And I'm not a big Cam Reddish guy at this point, considering he's done precisely nothing in his entire career every single time that he stepped on the floor. So I usually don't tend to like guys who have shown absolutely nothing for the better part of 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's still potential for sure, but like looking at him and saying, oh, he's good is kind of crazy.
50% true shooting, 48% true shooting, and 54% true shooting with no offensive rebounds, no defensive rebounds, no assist, and just some turnovers. That is a guy that doesn't do much of anything. So we go to Houston, where we have a Q tag on Eric Gordon. I'm going to go ahead and say that Eric Gordon's not playing for the Rockets today. If we get that information, it's because he didn't get traded and then he gets ruled in at 3:00 or anytime after that. There's no chance that we're planning to play him right now, though. That I fully expect Eric Gordon to be on the way out of Houston today. Potentially Daniel Tice as well. I like a lot here for Houston. Wood, Porter, Green, all have had their minutes either firmed up or slightly increased. Şengün now getting the minutes at the 4, or if you want to say the Christian Wood is the 4 or whatever, it doesn't matter. He's the highest owned guy for Houston at 25 to 30%. So there's a lot here for me to like against Houston, but it feels like a weird matchup against Toronto, who's way too smart for this team.
Yeah, I mean, Şengün is, I think, the clear priority here. Played like 28 minutes last game. This is another team where, I mean, I assume that they're going to just keep starting him anyway, but this isn't the spot where I would expect them to stop, even if they eventually are going to. You just have another, easy front court to have him out there. So I think he looks really good with power forward eligibility, 4,800. We know he's a good point per minute guy. The rest of the team, I think that they're somewhat appealing in tournaments, but I also think they're pretty much correctly priced. Like Christian Wood at 8K. I do like that, he's playing alongside Şengün, so it opens up more minutes for him. He played like 32 last game, but you could easily get 34 to 35 if this game's competitive. Like you said, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Jae'Sean Tate, all playing more solidified minutes as well, but they're also not exactly cheap. So I think kind of just like mixing and matching those 4 makes sense, and then building around Şengün.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm really curious what Houston's going to do, because they certainly could pull off a bunch of stuff. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see Christian Wood get offloaded today, and that would really mess up this Houston team. And if you think the ownership on Şengün is high right now, just watch what happens if Christian Wood gets shipped out. No reason to say that it couldn't. I don't think he's long for Houston, so keep your eyes peeled to the Rockets for today. And then we go to the Clippers. They are 7-point dogs in Dallas, 216 total. And I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying this. There is not a single Clipper that you can play with any bit of confidence.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, they're just running a really deep rotation. The salaries aren't that appealing. Like if you want to gamble on Reggie Jackson or Marcus Morris, then go for it. But I think you're just going to be able to find better options. Like I would rather be getting to the Houston guys than the Clippers guys. Zubats at 3,900. Like if he plays 24 minutes would look good, but I have no real confidence that he's playing 24 minutes. Yeah, I mean, this team just looks brutal.
The highest owned guy in the game is 7.4% owned Reggie Jackson at 5,900, which, sure, that's kind of the guy you want to take a shot. There are many players who weren't very good at age 22 that become very good. Embiid, Kobe, and others.
How many
What are
teams
you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Are we comparing 22-year-old Kobe to Cam Reddish right now? Do you have any idea what Kobe Bryant was doing in the NBA at 22? He was 18 when he came into the league and was good then.
And then Embiid was like really good at 22 also.
I mean, he wasn't really able to be on the floor all that much, but every time he was on the floor, he was exceptional. When Kobe was 22, he played 41 minutes a game for a Lakers team that won the NBA title and averaged 28 and a half a game. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in this chat. That's really tough to pull off too. And I am not a Kobe fan, but holy shit, 22-year-old Kobe Bryant, I believe is an all NBA player, which is like, what are we talking about here?
Embiid was not very good at 20. Embiid's been good the entire time he's been in the NBA.
Embiid has never been bad. Let's be clear here. At 22, it was his rookie year. He played 31 games. He averaged 28, 2 assists, and 3.5 stocks. It was the first time that he had played NBA games. He missed the previous 2 seasons. Brandon, you're not bright. Good Lord. Oh, Kobe was nowhere near at age 22 what he became. Yeah, apologies for that trajectory of Kobe, not projecting that he was going to be one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. And by the way, a 22-year-old guy playing 40 minutes a game and scoring 28 points is quite the baseline for it. Even in
Kobe was better than Reddish when he was 7.
Kobe, I mean, at 19, Kobe played 79 games. He played 26 minutes a game and averaged 15. And then the next year took the jump to become like an actual NBA player. At 20, he was taking 16 shots a game and averaged 20 points. I mean, Cam Reddish is on his second team and the second team won't play him. So maybe we're comparing like apples and like dump trucks in this case. That we're not even in the same ballpark.
I mean, if his only point is that 22 is early in the career arc and players typically get better, then yeah, sure. Reddish can go from like really bad to less bad.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's to say that Kobe was not very good at 22 makes you never be allowed to talk about basketball ever, ever, ever. That's insane. Let's talk Dallas. You know what's not insane? Well, you know what is insane? The way that Luka Doncic has been playing. 11-2 on FanDuel, 12-4 on DraftKings, 1.58 FanDuel points per minute over the past 30 days. And I think he looks even better here.
He's also barely 20 years old.
That's true. 38% owned on FanDuel, 22 on DraftKings. To me, Luka Doncic is the best thing you can pay up for today.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, 12. The only issue I have with Luka is that he's $2,000 more expensive than Kyrie and John Morant. But if you're able to find that money, then by all means.
Red Skittles said, Brandon, are you a woman who throws biscuits at cars by any chance? Great callback to yesterday's show. Red Skittles ended up taking a Bowberry biscuit straight through the window of his car from a stranger. So you want to take this one, Adam?
I made like 175K 2 weeks ago. How'd your betting week go?
Yeah. Get a $5 single game parlay.
I'm guessing the 15K I made last night covers it too, but
Brandon. Not ideal. Okay, so we agree we're playing a bunch of Luka Doncic. I think that we have to play at least a little bit of Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson, at least on FanDuel. Dorian Finney-Smith, 4,700, shooting guard, small forward, eligible, projected for 23% ownership. Jalen Brunson, 5,900 on FanDuel, projected for 30% ownership. These guys are not pulling that same amount of love on DK, although I like them a little bit more than the ownership. How do you feel about DFS and Jalen Brunson?
I feel like I'm probably going to get to more Jalen Brunson than I want because I typically do, and typically it doesn't work out that well. But only 12% ownership here, 6,700, likely to give you 35, 36 minutes if the Clippers are able to hang in this game. He'll most likely have his minutes staggered with Luka, which is nice. So I think Brunson just looks good at that salary. I think he's just a little bit underpriced. Finney-Smith, I'm a little bit less excited about just because like he projects as a good point per dollar option because he's probably going to play 36 minutes at 5K. It's just that it's more difficult for him to have like a game that truly wins you a tournament because of the type of player that he is. But at 9%, it's fine.
Reggie Bullock today, 5,200, shooting guard, small forward.
I'm just laughing at this guy that is questioning how much money I make at DFS.
Likewise. Even if you don't make it in a week, it's still a year, and
right.
That's a significant number, but
yeah,
it's neither here nor there.
Imagine if you knew what I got paid to do this.
I know. For real.
I think Bullock is fine. You can't, like, I know he's somebody that chat has really liked recently because he's been just playing out of his mind. The opportunities are certainly there for him. He's getting a lot of minutes. He's got guard forward eligibility. All of that is nice. You have to keep in mind that we have a very long track record of Reggie Bullock being like a 0.7 to 0.75 fantasy point per minute guy. His rebounding numbers have been up recently, which is good. And then obviously he's been shooting well. So there is a ceiling there, but it's still just difficult for me to really trust him.
Adam, post a ticket of your 175K. You've got nothing.
It's on Twitter. I already have.
Yeah, go check Twitter or Lineup Study, where every single bit of this is available for you to firm up. Oof. All righty. Anything else for Dallas? Because I don't think that we could really play anybody outside of that Doncic, Finney-Smith, Brunson, and to a lesser extent Bullock role now that Maxi's back. Let's go to the Knicks. The New York Knicks are 9.5-point dogs in Golden State, 218.5 total. I have no idea what's going to be happening for the Knicks, but we do know that it's looking like RJ Barrett is going to be out for this one. I have him out. He is listed as doubtful, so don't believe we're going to be getting him. We've got Q tags on Mitchell Robinson, Nerlens Noel, and Quentin Grimes. Obviously, the Q tags on the bigs are not all that important. We know what to do once it all ends. So how much Alec Burks do you want today? 4,700 on FanDuel, 4,800 on DraftKings, but he's point guard, small forward.
Yeah, and I mean, the minutes should be there, assuming Reddish, not Reddish, assuming Barrett
right.
doesn't play. Yeah, I mean, 4,800 looks pretty good. Like the production for Burks isn't great. You're talking like 0.8 to 0.9 fantasy points per minute, but it's just going to be easy to get him into lineups, I think. So not something I'm excited about, but just a piece that I think is going to open up other stuff that you will want in your lineups.
Yeah, if you take Rose and Barrett off this year and leave everybody else in, Alec Burks has played like 450 minutes. Quickly, he's played like 350 minutes, and then like the next closest guy is 290. So I definitely enjoy the idea of getting to Burks. I think there's some minutes potential there. What do we do with the rest of the Knicks? I mean, there's a decent chance that this Knicks team doesn't look like this Knicks team by the time we get through the deadline, but do you see anything else you want to get to with no Barrett?
I think so. It's tough because Barrett's played so much this year. Like I don't think we have any like reliable sample on what's going to happen with him off the floor, but you're talking about someone that recently has had like a 28% usage rate. I think you could see more production for Randall. You potentially see a bump in usage for Evan Fournier. Fournier at 5,900, it's still kind of a tough sell. Like he has to get that bump to be worth it. But Randall at 9,100 is interesting to me just because you could see him maybe, get a little bit more. Robinson at 5,600, I don't mind going to if he's in. Just been playing well recently, could certainly get 30 minutes or so. You want to play Cam Reddish?
Not really. He's 3,600 and not likely to play enough minutes to matter, even with a shorthanded team and them missing the one guy that basically plays exactly like Cam Reddish.
Yeah, I mean, if he's playing well, he could get into the mid-20s, I think.
Sure. I mean, should we be talking about Nerlens Noel at 3,200 if Mitchell Robinson's out and Noel is in?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess with Reddish, if Quentin Grimes is out, I'm interested in Reddish at 3,600. If Grimes is in, I still think you can take a flyer on Reddish, but if he's out, like, there's a lot of minutes available.
Do they go to Quickly first?
Well, yeah.
Do they go to more Kemba first? Do they go to Miles McBride?
I mean, they could, but Reddish has been ahead of him. Like last game with Grimes out, Reddish played 14 minutes.
Yeah.
Quickly played 18. McBride played 51 seconds. I mean, I kind of think the pecking order here in the rotation is Kemba, obviously, Quickly, Grimes, Reddish, McBride. So already taking out Barrett, you're opening up minutes where with or without Grimes, you expect Reddish to be on the floor. But if you take out Grimes as well, I think I think both Quickly and Reddish are playing decent minutes if Grimes is out. And they're both cheap.
Certainly worth a flyer at 3,600. I don't know if he gets anything more than 16 minutes given the way Tibbs seems to feel about him. Quickly certainly looks better at 3,400 in that regard. I think if we did lose Grimes for this one, I think Burks for 36 makes a lot more sense. Do you think that Burks goes the full freight starter minutes if Grimes happens to be out?
Probably. Like you'd probably get back to those like 34 to 36 minute Burks games that we were getting.
Yeah, that seems to make some sense to me. Interesting team to pay attention to. A lot of stuff in the air for the Knicks and could potentially be a multiple player trade candidate. So this guy is out of his mind. So they didn't want to play Cam Reddish right away because he's young and they're trying to win. They have no problem playing Trae Young, who is also young and trying to win, or Onyeka Okongwu now, who is absolutely
played Cam
young
Reddish.
and trying. Yeah, well, they did. I agreed, but like even this example, they were playing a bunch of other young guys as well.
Yeah,
in this, like Trae Young's 23. He's like the same age as Cam Reddish, basically. Okongwu is a full part of their rotation. They didn't play Cam Reddish, not because he's young, but because he's not good. If Cam Reddish were good, they would happily play their young, good wing alongside their young, good point guard. They would love for that to have been the case.
I mean, so the logic here is they drafted him, what, 4th overall or whatever the hell he was?
Something like that.
And then...
No, he went 10, right?
Oh, right. Hunter went 4.
Yeah.
But so they used their first round pick on him, and then they don't want to play him because he's young. So then rather than playing him because he's young, they trade him for nothing.
By the way,
they think he's good, but he's young.
T. McBee drops he also played 27 minutes and 28 minutes a game the past 2 years.
Right.
You can't say he wasn't the 4th pick, not close. I mean, he was in discussions for it and they took him 10th. He's a lottery pick. Also, I wonder why he was a lottery pick at 10 and not drafted earlier with all of this rousing potential. Golden State Warriors. Doesn't look like we're going to have Otto Porter for this one. Should have Klay Thompson back. A couple other things up in the air here for Golden State. No Andre Iguodala, no James Wiseman. Potentially we get Bielitsa back. We don't know. Golden State is on the back-to-back. Obviously still no Draymond. Wiggins is 20% owned on FanDuel. Nobody else is really in double digits. Do you like anything from Golden State today with this lackluster usage rate for Steph Curry?
Not really. I mean, the matchup is pretty unappealing. The Knicks just play at such a slow pace. It's tough to get there. But Thompson is a problem for anyone else on Golden State that requires scoring to get fantasy points. I mentioned it yesterday, but we have like 210 minutes this year where Steph has shared the floor with Klay without Draymond. Steph has a 20.6% usage rate. Now, I don't think that continues going forward. Like I think it has to come up from there. But Clay is clearly cutting into Steph's production when they're on the floor together. And for someone who is over $10,000 and doesn't rebound at a high level, gets assists, but not at a crazy high level or anything. Like he's a pretty scoring dependent guy at 10,500. It's a problem when you have Klay Thompson cutting into his shots. Same goes for Wiggins. He has like an 18.5% usage rate in those minutes. Wiggins' rebounding numbers are a little bit better without Draymond. So I think like he's still reasonable, but Klay playing just makes it really difficult, I think, to get to either of Curry or Wiggins.
I agree. I'm with you.
I do kind of like Klay, though.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. 6% owned. I mean, he's certainly going to shoot. Hasn't really had a
playing more
aversion to that. Yeah. But yeah, nobody in my DK sim showed up more than 10% for Golden State, and that's about how I feel for the team too. Let's close this one out quickly. Late night hammer, Milwaukee at Phoenix, rematch of the finals. We've got Giannis up top, Drew, Middleton, Portis. Are you going to anything else from Milwaukee here? Do you have any priorities from the Bucks?
No, I mean, I think they pretty much are priced where they should be. I'm still interested in Portis at 6,800. Like, he's just getting 32 minutes typically in competitive games. He's a good point per minute guy. If you can get to Giannis, great. I think you should, we talked about Luka being the preferred pay up option. Definitely pay attention to the ownership between him and Giannis, because the range of outcomes is the same. You can certainly expect Luka to play more minutes, but right now you are getting twice as much ownership going to Luka, and you do actually have a little bit more positional flexibility with Giannis. So I do like Giannis in tournaments. I think him and Portis are the two I like the most here. Holiday and Middleton are a level below.
Yeah, best guy that I have here is Giannis on FanDuel at 11.5. Portis for 6,500 with the power forward eligibility at 6,500 looks pretty good too. When we go to Phoenix, same guys that have been out for Phoenix are out again. No Cam Payne, no Abdel Nader, no Kaminsky. Booker, 8,800 on FanDuel, 30% owned. 8,900 on DraftKings, 30% owned. I really like Devin Booker here.
Yeah, right there with you. Just cheaper than he should be. Like, you're getting, assuming this game's competitive, you're getting 38 or more probably minutes from Booker. He's going to have a 30+% usage rate. He just looks good. Chris Paul at 9,200 I think is playable. I would get the Booker first, but you have seen increased playing time from Paul without Cameron Payne as well. So still not a crazy play at that price tag, and probably will be lower owned than Booker. We finally got a 30-minute game from DeAndre Ayton last time out. That was good to see. 6,600 I like getting there. I think that you're going to continue seeing that going forward. So all three of those guys I think look pretty good. Booker 1, 8 and 2, Paul 3 for me most likely. And then you kind of just get into the cheaper guys with Jay Crowder probably playing 30 minutes. Never an exciting option, but he's only 4,400. DraftKings kind of fixed JaVale McGee's price. He's not 3,400 anymore. 4,200, there is still certainly a ceiling there, but it's a little bit more difficult for him to hit than when he was basically minimum salary.
GPP videos, injury report videos, deeper dive later today for you.
Yep.
There we go. It's going to be a wild one, everybody. Buckle up. Remember, trade deadline show coming up 1:30, potentially earlier. I'm breaking it all down, every single deal that comes in. And we're going to leave Brandon and Sean at home for that one. Otherwise, we're not going to make any progress. Good luck tonight, everybody. Make sure you're paying attention to the deeper dive and live before lock, because you're going to need the news. We'll see you tomorrow for another NBA strategy show.